Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, a Legend and a Symbol, Part 1, Book 1, Canto 4. A consciousness that knows not its own truth, a vagrant hunter of misleading dawns, between the being's dark and luminous ends, moves here in a half-light that seems the whole. An interregnum in reality cuts off the integral thought, the total power. It circles or stands in a vague interspace, doubtful of its beginning and its close, or runs upon a road that has no end. Far from the original dusk, the final flame, in some huge void in conscience it lives, like a thought persisting in a wide emptiness. As if an unintelligible phrase suggested a million renderings to the mind, it lends a purport to a random world. A conjecture leaning upon doubtful proofs, a message misunderstood, a thought confused, missing its aim is all that it can speak, or a fragment of the universal word. It leaves two giant letters void of sense, while without sanction turns the middle sign, carrying an enigmatic universe, as if a present without future or past, repeating the same revolutions whirl, turned on its axis in its own inane. Thus is the meaning of creation veiled. For without context reads the cosmic page. Its signs stare at us like an unknown script, as if appeared screened by a foreign tongue, or code of splendor signs without a key, a portion of a parable sublime. It wears to the perishable creature's eyes the grandeur of a useless miracle, wasting itself that it may last a while, a river that can never find its sea. It runs through life and death on an edge of time. A fire in the night is its mighty action's blaze. This is our deepest need to join once more what now is parted, opposite and twain, remote in sovereign spheres that never meet, or fronting like far poles of night and day. We must fill the immense lacuna we have made, re-wed the closed finite's lonely consonant with the open vowels of infinity. A hyphen must connect matter and mind, the narrow isthmus of the ascending soul. We must renew the secret bond in things. Our hearts recall the lost divine idea, reconstitute the perfect word, unite the Alpha and the Omega in one sound. Then shall the spirit and nature be at one. Two are the ends of the mysterious plan. In the wide, signless ether of the self, in the unchanging silence white and nude, aloof, resplendent, like gold dazzling suns, veiled by the ray no mortal eye can bear, the spirits bare and absolute potencies burn in the solitude of the thoughts of God. A rapture and a radiance and a hush, delivered from the approach of wounded hearts, denied to the idea that looks at grief, remote from the force that cries out in its pain. In his inalienable bliss they live, immaculate in self-knowledge and self-power, calm they repose on the eternal will. Only his law they count and him obey. They have no goal to reach, no aim to serve. Implacable in their timeless purity, All barter or bribe of worship they refuse. Unmoved by cry of revolt and ignorant prayer, they reckon not our virtue and our sin. They bend not to the voices that implore. They hold no traffic with error and its reign. They are guardians of the silence of the truth. They are keepers of the immutable decree. A deep surrender is their source of might. A still identity their way to know. Motionless is their action like a sleep. At peace, regarding the trouble beneath the stars, deathless, watching the works of death and chance, immobile, seeing the millenniums pass, untouched, while the long map of fate unrolls. They look on our struggle with impartial eyes, and yet, without them, cosmos could not be. Impervious to desire and doom and hope, their station of inviolable might, moveless upholds the world's enormous task. Its ignorance is by their knowledge lit, its yearning lost by their indifference. As the height draws the low ever to climb, as the breaths draw the small to adventure vast, their aloofness drives man to surpass himself. Our dwarf search mind to meet the omniscient light, our helpless hearts to enshrine the omnipotent's force. Acquiescing in the wisdom that made hell and the harsh utility of death and tears, acquiescing in the gradual steps of time, careless the seam of the grief that stings the world's heart, careless of the pain that rends its body and life. Above joy and sorrow is their grandest walk. They have no portion in the good that dies. Mute, pure, they share not in the evil done. Else might their strength be marred and could not save. Alive to the truth that dwells in God's extremes, awake to motion of all-seeing force, the slow outcome of the long ambiguous years, and the unexpected good from woeful deeds, the immortal sees not as we vainly see. He looks on hidden aspects and screened powers. He knows the law and natural line of things. Undriven by a brief life's will to act, unharassed by the spur of pity and fear, he makes no haste to untie the cosmic knot, or the world's torn, jarring heart to reconcile. In time he waits for the eternal's hour, yet a spiritual secret aid is there. While a tardy evolution's coils wind on, and nature hews her way through adamant, a divine intervention thrones above. Alive in a dead rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a casual globe, abandoned to a task beyond our force. Even through the tangled anarchy called fate, and through the bitterness of death and fall, an outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. It is near us in unnumbered bodies and births. In its unslackening grasp it keeps for us safe the one inevitable supreme result. No will can take away and no doom change the crown of conscious immortality, the Godhead promised to our struggling souls when first man's heart dared death and suffered life. One who has shaped this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are his steps upon the way. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our sins and sorrows and our tears. His knowledge overrules our nations. Whatever the appearance, we must bear whatever our strong ills and present fate. When nothing we can see but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. A date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown, an anniversary of the birth sublime. Our soul shall justify its checkered walk, all will come near that now is not or far. These calm and distant mights shall act at last, immovably ready for their destined task. The ever-wise compassionate brilliances await the sound of the Incarnate's voice, to leap and bridge the chasms of ignorance, and heal the hollow yearning gulfs of life, and fill the abyss that is the universe. Here, meanwhile, at the Spirit's opposite pole, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built for His abode below the thinker's sight, in this compromise of a stark absolute truth, with the light that dwells near the dark end of things, in this tragic comedy of divine disguise, this long far-seeking for joy ever near, in the grandiose dream of which the world is made, in this gold dome on a black dragon base, the conscious force that acts in nature's breast, a dark-robed laborer in the cosmic scheme, carrying clay images of unborn gods, executrix of the inevitable idea, hampered, enveloped by the hoops of fate, patient trustee of slow eternal time, absolves from hour to hour her secret charge. All she foresees in massed imperative depths, the dumb intention of the unconscious gulfs, answer to a will that sees upon the heights, and the evolving word's first syllable, ponderous brute-sensed, contains its luminous close, private to a summit victory's vast descent, and the portent of the soul's immense uprise. All here where each thing seems its lonely self are figures of the soul transcendent to one. Only by Him they are, His breath is their life, an unseen presence molds the oblivious clay. A playmate in the mighty mother's game, one came upon the dubious whirling globe to hide from her pursuit in force and form. A secret spirit in the inconscient sleep, a shapeless energy, a voiceless word. He was here before the elements could emerge, before there was light of mind or life could breathe. Accomplice of her cosmic huge pretense, His semblances He turns to real shapes and makes the symbol equal with the truth. He gives to His timeless thoughts a form in time. He is the substance, He the self of things. She has forged from Him her works of skill and might. She wraps Him in the magic of her moods and makes of His myriad truths her countless dreams. The Master of Being has come down to her, an immortal child born in the fugitive years. In objects wrought, in the persons she conceives, dreaming she chases her idea of Him, and catches here a look and there a jest. Ever He repeats in them His ceaseless births. He is the maker and the world He made. He is the vision and He is the seer. He is Himself the actor and the act. He is Himself the knower and the known. He is Himself the dreamer and the dream. There are two who are one and play in many worlds. In knowledge and ignorance they have spoken and met, and light and darkness are their eyes interchange. Our pleasure and pain are their wrestle and embrace. Our deeds Our hopes are intimate to their tale. They are married secretly in our thought and life. The universe is an endless masquerade, for nothing here is utterly what it seems. It is a dream-fact vision of a truth, which but for the dream would not be wholly true. A phenomenon stands out significant against dim backgrounds of eternity. We accept its face and pass by all it means. A part is seen, we take it for the whole. Thus have they made their play with us for roles. Author and actor with himself as seen, he moved there as the soul, as nature she. Here on the earth, where we must fill our parts, we know not how shall run the drama's course. Our uttered sentences wail in their thought. Her mighty plan she holds back from our sight. She has concealed her glory and her bliss, and disguised the love and wisdom in her heart. Of all the marvel and beauty that are hers, only a darkened little we can feel. He too wears a diminished Godhead here. He has forsaken his omnipotence. His calm he has forgone, and infinity. He knows her only. He has forgotten himself. To her he abandons all to make her great. He hopes in her to find himself anew, incarnate, wedding his infinity's peace to her creative passion's ecstasy. Although possessor of the earth and heavens, he leaves to her the cosmic management and watches all the witness of her scene. A supernumerary on her stage, he speaks no words or hides behind the wings. He takes birth in her world, waits on her will, divines her enigmatic gestures sense, the fluctuating chance turns of her mood, works out her meanings she seems not to know, and serves a secret purpose in long time. As one too great for him, he worships her. He adores her as his regent of desire. He yields to her as the mover of his will. He burned the incense of his nights and days, offering his life a splendor of sacrifice. A rapt solicitor for her love and grace, his bliss in her to him is his whole world. He grows through her in all his being's powers. He reads by her God's hidden aim in things. Or a courtier in her countless retinue, content to be with her and feel her near. He makes the most of the little that she gives, and all she does drapes with his own delight. A glance can make his whole day wonderful. A word from her lips with happiness wings the hours. He leans on her for all he does and is. He builds on her largesse his proud, fortunate days, and trails his peacock plumage joy of life, and suns in the glory of her passing smile. In 1,000 ways he serves her royal needs. He makes the hours pivot around her will, makes all reflect her whims. All is their play. This whole wide world is only he and she. This is the knot that ties together the stars. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. His soul silent supports the world and her. His acts are her commandments' registers. Happy, inert, he lies beneath her feet. His breast he offers for her cosmic dance. of which our lives are the quivering theatre, and none could bear but for his strength within, yet none would leave because of his delight. His works, his thoughts have been devised by her. His being is a mirror vast of hers. Active, inspired by her, he speaks and moves. His deeds obey her heart's unspoken demands. Passive, he bears the impacts of the world as if her touch is shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is a sun march. He runs upon her roads, hers is his course, a witness and student of her joy and dole, a partner in her evil and her good. He has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force. His sanctioning name initials all her works. His silence is a signature to her deeds. In the execution of her drama's scheme, in her fancies of the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature's common forms are marvel wefts. She, through his witness sight and motion of might, unrolls the material of her cosmic act. Her happening that exalt and smite the soul, her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her word that in the silence speaks to our hearts, her silence that transcends the summit word, her heights and depths to which our spirit moves, her events that weave the texture of our lives, and all by which we find or lose ourselves. Things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, things terrible and beautiful and divine. Her empire in the cosmos she has built, he is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a babe upon her knees, his being a field of her vast experiment. Her endless space is the playground of his thoughts. She binds her knowledge of the shapes of time and the creative error of limiting mind, and chance that wears the rigid face of fate, and a sport of death and pain and nescience, his chained and struggling immortality. His soul is a subtle atom in a mass, his substance a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being's gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless light. This grand surrender is his free will's gift. His pure transcendent force submits to hers. In the mystery of her cosmic ignorance, in the insoluble riddle of her play, a creature made of perishable stuff, in the pattern she has set for him, he moves. He thinks with her thoughts, with her trouble his bosom heaves. He seems the thing that she would have him seem. He is whatever her artist will can make. Although she drives him on her fancy's roads, at play with him as with a child or slave, to freedom and the eternal's mastery and immortality stand above the world, she moves her seeming puppet of an hour. Even in his mortal session in body's house, a nameless traveller between birth and death, ephemeral dreaming of immortality, to reign she spurs him. He takes up her powers. He has harnessed her to the yoke of her own law. His face of human thought puts on a crown. Held in her leash, bound to her veiled caprice, he studies her ways if so he may prevail even for an hour, and she work out his will. He makes of her his moment passion's serf. To obey she feigns, she follows her creature's lead. For him she was made. lives only for his use. But conquering her, then he is the most her slave. He is her dependent. All his means are hers. Nothing without her he can. She rules him still. At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity the Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest height she unmasks and is his mate. Till then he is a plaything in her game, her seeming regent, yet her fancy's toy, a living robot moved by her energy springs. He acts as in the movements of a dream, an automaton stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on, driven by her whip of force. His thought labors, a bullock in time's fields. His will he thinks his own, is shaped in her forge. Obedient to world nature's dumb control, driven by his own formidable power, his chosen partner in a titan game. Her will he has made the master of his fate, her whim the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal power for any blow or boon that she may choose. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. In all experience meets her blissful hands. On his heart he bears the happiness of her tread and the surprise of her arrival's joy. In each event and every moment's chance, all she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea, a tireless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. The Spirit, the innumerable One. He has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time, her finite multitude in an infinite space. The Master of existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument loiters secret God. The immanent lives in man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of might. All-knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine, wears shapes of animal or man. Eternal, he ascends to fate and time. Immortal, dallies with mortality. The all-conscious ventured into ignorance. The all-blissful bore to be insensible. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain, he puts on joy and sorrow like a robe, and drinks experience like a strengthening wine. He whose transcendence rules the pregnant vasts, prescient now dwells in our subliminal depths, a luminous individual power alone.